This is so easy.
Okay.
Let me know when you're ready. This is okay.
I'm ready.
Thank you. I'd like to call this council meeting to order. It is 7 o'clock on May 21st, 2024, and I'd like to welcome you all. My name is Sherry Tice. I'm President Pro Tem, sitting in for President Keller, who could not be with us. Mrs. Chancey, would you please call the roll?
Brooks,
Here.
Duvall,
Here.
Hallidan,
Here.
Hedges,
Here.
Kaliska,
Here.
Modes,
Here.
Tice.
Here. And invite everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and you're welcome to join us in the invocation that will follow if you wish. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
In Jesus' name.
Okay, council members should have received a copy of the minutes from the May 7th council meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? No? Yes,
Move to
Tom?
approve as written.
Okay, we have a motion to approve, Tom Duval, seconded by Jeff Hallinan. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. The minutes are approved. Do we have any reports from council members this evening? Mrs. Hedges?
Thank you. We had a finance committee meeting on May 13th. From that meeting, we had two pieces of legislation that we forwarded to council. The first is under number 10. The second will be brought up under new business. I also wanted to announce that we were going to have another finance meeting on May 28th, which is, I believe, 1 week from tonight at 6 o'clock. We will be addressing the tax budget for the county. And then also the mayor has a couple of items that she will be providing as well.
Okay, thank you. So we will have a finance meeting on May 28th at 6 o'clock, correct?
Yes, and I will do one caveat that just came this afternoon, so I do need to confirm with the clerk that works for her, so that would be the only caveat if it doesn't.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kliska?
Yes.
Chairman of the Judicial Committee.
Thank you very much. The Judicial Committee held its meeting previous to tonight's full council meeting. We have one ordinance and one topic that we'll discuss actually at our meeting on May 4th. Excuse me, June 4th.
Okay,
Yes, June 4th.
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Duval, Chairman of the Service
Have a
Committee.
couple ordinances to discuss this evening at that appropriate time.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, very good. We are pleased to have several city officials with us this evening, including our mayor, Michelle Blanton, law director, Kendra Kinney, and our auditor, Mark Bidwell. Do any of you have reports to share this evening?
I do not at this time.
I do. Every council meeting, since the beginning of the year, I've provided a report of what's gone on the 2 weeks prior. And so tonight, I just wanted to kind of go over some of those items for our citizens' perspective. So the day of our last meeting, I headed up to Strand and Associates. Strand and Associates is one of the vendors that the city uses in the service department. They had a grand opening of their new office in downtown Columbus. So I was able to spend some time up there, see that as a customer, to see the new digs, if you will, for them. Wednesday morning, I had coffee with the superintendent of Circleville City Schools. We've made it a habit to try to meet on a regular basis to discuss how the city and the schools can work together. That morning, Ohio Health celebrated Nurses Week, so I went to the hospital and read a proclamation for Nurses Week. Also got to see several of our nurses that work at Ohio Health Burger receive scholarships for their education pursuits from the foundation. There were several nurses that received awards that day. And so it was great to be a part of that community event and celebrate members of our community. The next day, on Thursday, May the 9th, we held the Mayor's Breakfast to fundraise for the Simon Kenton Boy Scouts of America Club. And so we raised over $10,000 from that fundraiser. And so thank you to the council members who were able to make it and or those community members who donated to that cause. All of that money stays local in our troops. And so we're excited for that. Friday, I met with the mayor of the city of Xenia. It was a connection that I made through a vendor that the city uses. And so I was able to go and had lunch with her. That afternoon, we traveled up to the fire department and looked at the communications equipment that is in the communications room up there to see what that was about. That will be discussed at a later meeting. That takes us to the 13th. Last week was Nursing Home Week. And so I spent the morning on Monday at Brown Memorial Nursing Home, as well as Post Acute, where we celebrated Nursing Home Week and the lives of those who are in our assisted living facilities. That afternoon, I was at Logan Elm Healthcare out on Tarleton Road to do the same thing, where we celebrated that. That evening, we had finance and BZA here. On Tuesday, the 14th, the District Advisory Committee, which you all appointed me to sit on as a member of the Pickaway County Board of Health. That afternoon, we had a meeting at Watt Street. It was good to be in the room with township trustees from all over the county to talk about DAC business. That afternoon, we held Director of Public Safety interviews here in council chambers. Met with Councilperson Duvall that day. Wednesday, we celebrated Law Enforcement Appreciation Week at the Law Director's Office. So thank you again to those who came there, and thank you to our law enforcement who serve the city day in and day out. Went to Pickaway Manor and celebrated Nurses Week with them and got a picture with them. It was a great time. That evening was Chamber Business After Business. Spent some time out at Coghlan, reminiscing with the general manager out there. Thursday, the 16th, I spent 3 hours with third graders at Circleville Elementary Schools for When I Grow Up Day. It was a great time talking about the city and how the mayor and city council work together. I think Katie and I were in the same group, and so it was really good to represent the city there. You will be happy to know that we have doctors, lawyers, future military service men and women, police officers, firefighters, singers, artists, and all of those different.
A lot of YouTubers too.
A lot of YouTubers, yes, content creators in the third grade right now. So, and a very special IT computer whiz said that he could help us today if we needed his help. So put him on your vendor list. But it was a great day. It was fun. The fire department, the police officers, the EMS workers, we were all there with other members throughout the community. And so it was really good just to spend time with them. Went to Noon Rotary that day. And then on this past Friday, I spent the whole day with a group of about 85 mayors from across the state in a new mayor's training that the Ohio Municipal League held in Obetz. And so it's been a busy time. You'll also see, not to steal the thunder of the correspondence, but over the last 2 weeks, we've also attended 2 Civil Service Commission meetings, and you'll hear more about that in correspondence. So that's the end of my report.
Thank you. You have been busy.
Thank you.
Do any council members have questions for any of our elected officials? No. Okay. Very good. That brings us to the public addresses to council section. So if anybody would like to come up and address council, this is the time. Please come to the podium, give us your name and address. We are always glad you're here, glad to hear from people, and we appreciate your input. So you'll have 5 minutes. Your comments will be recorded. At the end of the 5 minutes, Mrs. Chansey will signify if you're out of time. And since we do have a couple of topics that have been bringing in lots of people, we do have rules at council that only 15 minutes can be spent on any one topic on one side of the issue. So if you're against something, we can listen to 15 minutes of public comment on that and 15 minutes of people who would be for that same issue. So a total of 15 on each side. Just keep that in mind. So we'll keep track. And thank you, sir. What is your name?
My name's Tom Verfaele. I live at 305 Lewis Road here in Circleville. My concern is for the homeless shelter that you're going to put up in our neighborhood, or supposedly you're looking at that, which I'm against because we got children coming in next door to them on that COSI or some plaything that's building up there. And I'm just, I need to know what I got to do to block this if it's coming our way, or if you have got another site that you're looking at too.
So
That's
you're
my
against
question.
the Morris Road location? Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
That we
yes,
discussed
I'm not
in the
against the
committee
homeless
meeting?
shelter. I'm
Sure.
against where you're going to put it.
Okay. Well, nothing's been discussed. That was just brought up in a committee meeting. So,
Well, that's good and fine, but I never get, how do I know when you're going to come and talk about it? So I need to be notified on that so I can be here when you bring up the topic.
I see. Well, that comes, that will be in strategic planning meeting. If it comes to committee again, that's really in the hands of the Hope House people to
So
decide what
you
they want to
don't-
do. That's not a city thing. That's the Hope House people are looking for locations.
Okay,
So,
well, I need to know.
okay.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address council this evening? No? Okay, very good. Next on the agenda, we have communications. Mrs. Chansey, do we have any communications this evening?
Yes, ma'am, we have two. We have a letter, communications dated April 30th, 2024, to Mr. Jim Stanley, our service director. It's a thank you letter on behalf of the neighbors living on Circle and Markley Drive. We want to thank you for the major street improvements to our community, and we are grateful that Wood Lane and Arbor Road were included in the projects. It brings us a sense of pride to drive down the smooth new pavements with confidence that improvements were made in the process. They did an excellent work. This is from Joe and Carol Brown, 938 Circle Drive, Circleville. And we have a communication letter from the Office of the Mayor, Michelle Blanton, dated March 8, 2024. Dear Circleville Civil Service Commission, the City of Circleville proposes to initiate the process of hiring a successor police chief from the outside the City of Circleville Police Department. Seeking the ability to seek outside candidates will be the most effective way for the city to hire and retain a police chief due to the recent circumstances occurring within the city police department. And like I say, it's from the mayor. That's only two communications I have.
Linda, could I request that you read the letter from the mail in full?
Which one? was
The
that?
letter from the mayor.
Oh, about civil service?
Yeah, just so that we can all kind of understand the process that's going on right now.
Okay. Do I have permission?
Yes, you please read the letter in full.
Okay. As a commission, excuse me, as a commission may be aware, recent exceptional circumstances within the Circleville Police Department include the chief, deputy chief recently resigning, a captain resigning in 2022, an analyst of the police department by PRADA, P-R-A-D-C-O, that has not been implemented, the rank of sergeants being the highest current rank, even though the police department has a position of captain, deputy chief, and chief, and the only one sergeant has effectively satisfied the promotional probationary period. Due to these exceptional circumstances, it is believed that the best manner to effectively resolve not only issues within the police department, but also a leadership vacuum, is to hire a chief that brings experience, strong leadership capabilities, qualities that are not currently found internally due to only one member being eligible within the department. The following letter will lay out the reasoning as to why Circleville is permitted to and should have the ability to hire a successor chief from without the Circleville Police Department. The process of appointing a chief from the outside the department is one that resolves around a great number of internal issues and sense of urgencies to fill the vacancy. The recommended steps to complete the process are as follows, as outlined in the city's law director. The procedures of the Ohio Civil Service Act, RC 124.01, must properly suspended to allow the appointment of an outside applicant to the position of the chief of police. The city of Circleville writes in accordance with this requirement and asks the Civil Service Commission to suspend the competitive examination requirement. And then it lists all the high revised codes. And then it says, in such a situation, the department in which the vacancy exists may request that the required competitive examination be dispensed with and the pool of candidates widened to include all qualified applicants. The widening would allow for both an internal or external candidate. Of course, the procedures ordinarily required will be suspended only upon a proper showing of the extraordinary conditions outlined in the statute. This provision of the revised code allows for the suspension of competitive examination requirements when circumstances dictate competitive competition as being impractical. Showing of each circumstances may be seen below allows for examples that would not be reviewed as circumstances rendering the situation as impractical. I'm sorry, my mouth is dry. Extraordinary circumstances include law enforcement operation reaching a point of near emergencies due to leadership vacuum and the urgent need for a qualified chief. A selection by competitive examination being impractical because the qualifies sought could not be accurately identified by such examination, and a department having low moral and signs of dissension, termination, resignation for misconduct, domestic dispute, criminal charges that could be aided by filling the role by a selection of some persons of high and recognized attainment in a professional and managerial captivity. Circumstances do not include having interested and possible qualified candidates from lower rank shows an interest in the vacancy after an internally promoted employee declines the permanent role, or admitting that there were possible qualified candidates within the department, but wanting a broader view of candidates. Here, Circleville needs managerial and leadership qualities from its top-ranked members. That is because the highest possible rank of the police department are currently not filled on a permanent basis, and only one sergeant, the highest active role, is out of his or her probationary period. Not only does this issue prevent the issue of a lack of experience, it also presents the ideal that there simply is no competition to be offered for the role if only looking to hire internally. Circleville needs to address these issues on an immediate basis because the three highest ranking roles within the department have all recently resigned. This has led to a lower morale and period of function since there is no senior leadership. The best method to address and solve The police department issues is to hire a candidate that possesses a strong managerial capacity and have professional experience qualified that are not currently found within the department. Excuse me. Furthermore, there is a lack of competition on an internal basis as there is no possible form of internal competition. There is only one sergeant who is out of their probationary period. The city requests that the Civil Service Commission grant this proposal and suspend the competitive examination requirements of Ohio Revised Code, Chapter 124, for the selection of the police chief. The position of the chief requires particular qualifications, and the recent state of affairs for the city render competition impractical. Doing so will allow for the city to accept applications from both inside and outside of the current department until applicant that exhibits outstanding qualities to lead the city police is selected. Sincerely, the Mayor, Michelle Blanton.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Chansey.
I did want to
Let's see, Mayor
clarify.
Blanton, could you
Go ahead.
go ahead and speak to this? Could you maybe
Yeah.
summarize it for us?
Yeah, so I do want to clarify the date on the letter should be May 8th, not March 8th.
Okay,
That
May 8th,
was-
okay,
yeah, it
I'll
should
correct
be,
that.
Thank
Thank you.
And so this letter was sent to the Circleville Civil Service Commission. They held their meeting last week where this letter was initially reviewed by them. They then received a letter from the Ohio Benevolent Patrolmen's Association, OPBA, which is the union for our sergeants and our police officers, requesting a hearing. So that hearing was scheduled for 7:30 yesterday morning. It was held here in council chambers. Each side presented their case. The Civil Service Commission passed a motion to waive the 1 year requirement for the probationary period, or to waive the probationary period for positions that are in the rank that could test for this position. That allows other internal candidates to apply, but they also passed a motion that allowed for internal and external candidates. That was their response to the letter. That official ruling will come from the chairman of the Civil Service
There'll be
Commission.
an official written decision regarding the stance, but at this time, the commission did rule to suspend the rules to allow both internal and external candidates to apply, as well as suspending the 1 year requirement probationary period to amend it to a 6-month probationary period, given our current status and pool of sergeants that then now may be eligible to apply for the overall position. But it does give essentially what the mayor did ask, to seek both internal and external candidates as a viable option for the city.
Great, thank you. Yes,
I have
Mrs.
one
Hedges?
follow-up. Thank you. Just a follow-up question to that. Assuming that all goes through as suggested, who will the interview panel for those candidates consist of?
So we are working with the Ohio Chiefs Association, Chiefs of Police Association, to follow all of the procedures. They're going to be receiving all of the applicants. The panel, we have a meeting scheduled with them next week. The panelists have not been formally selected for the interview part.
So will that all be internally done by like you two or outside people or?
The Ohio Police
Yeah.
Chiefs Association will handle this process in its
Okay.
entirety. Is my expectation. Obviously, we need to have the meeting with them, so I don't want to speak to as to what those
Sure.
terms are yet. But my understanding is that this is kind of a respected practice in that area, and that they will be able to advise the mayor on the processes that need to be completed, as well as aid in that selection
Great.
process.
Thank you.
Great, that sounds like it's going to widen the pool of candidates for the city, which is a good thing, both internal and external. Okay,
I'll make a motion to accept correspondence.
thank you, Jeff. We have a motion, second by Zach Brooks. All in favor of accepting the correspondence, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Same sign. Okay. That brings us to the legislation portion of this evening. Mrs. Chansey, could you please read the first resolution?
Resolution authorizing a vehicle leasing replacement program with Enterprise Fleet Management, Inc., and authorizing the Safety and Service Director to enter into agreements related to the same and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. This came to us from the Finance Committee. Mrs. Hedges?
Thank you. So one first clerical issue. There's a word that's missing that I believe the law director's office corrected, but it's not corrected on this agenda. On the second line between safety and service, the word "and" should be put in. That is reflected correctly on the ordinance. It's just incorrect on the agenda.
Okay, it's incorrect on the agenda?
Correct,
Okay.
but it's
correct
But it
on
is
it.
correct on but I just wanted to call that
No,
out. That
thank
was
you.
addressed earlier and
Okay.
corrected.
Thank you.
So this resolution came before the Finance Committee as the culmination of a several-month-long project that Auditor Mark Bidwell and Jim Stanley have been working on with Enterprise. It is, as described, a vehicle leasing and replacement program. We have been provided, and this was gone through in great detail at the Finance Committee, and I think we all have a copy of that, although I believe almost all of us were at that meeting as well. And it details the cost savings, which are significant, that the city could experience if we went this route. This component is really just the financing and allowing these two parties to enter into the agreement. There was a proposed slate, so to speak, of vehicles that they suggest to replace. That is not the function of this vote. This is really just to allow the agreement and to authorize the agreement to take place. So we do have representatives here from Enterprise should the council or anyone of the public have any questions for them. But again, I did want to draw attention to the comprehensive study that was presented to us at the finance meeting that outlined the vehicles, the total vehicles, the cost savings by vehicle, and just the comprehensive plan that they've suggested. So it did come out of our meeting with a recommendation for passage for today's consideration, but I did want to kind of offer the floor to Enterprise if they had anything they wanted to share or if any questions were be posed to them.
Yes.
So I'll hand it over to Ross, and I believe it's pronounced Van Bibber, is that correct? So Ross is actually from their Cincinnati office. However, he has pretty deep ties to Pickaway County. His family is from here. So he's not a Circleville native, but kind of a Circleville native. So I'll turn it over to him. But like I said, this has been a several month-long process that's happened, and this is just the culmination of that.
Yeah, so the idea here is I had family from here, so I wanted to immediately reach out to Mark, who answered the phone on accident, if I remember correctly. But after a long process, we have found that we can save the city a significant amount of money. The mindset behind that is if you run newer, younger vehicles and you get those vehicles at the best pricing, which we can access through the government buy, and then cycle younger vehicles, you can save a lot of money when it comes to maintenance expenses as well as fuel expenditures. And when leasing or financing, instead of basically spending a lump sum of cash, you can get many more newer vehicles for the city as well. And two quick updates, which I've not yet to get a hold of you for, is we're actually getting, for example, like $4,000 on like a Dodge Durango police pursuit. So saving a ton of money per vehicle in that situation. And also working directly with Sheets through WEX to get you guys $5. You wish.
Right.
They're paying you 5 cents off per gallon. So those just those two things. It's just basically an opening of a door of what it looks like to do business with us moving forward and saving the city as much money as possible. With that being said, it is much more of a partnership than it would be I come in and just tell you everything you need to do. We're based on the city's needs. So whether that's police vehicles, engineer fleet vehicles, or personal vehicles, whatever it may be, we're here to fill the city's needs.
So they did provide a fleet planning analysis that, again, is all in your packet. I think it's the third page of the packet. It does cover about $500,000 of savings over a 10-year plan. And just to reiterate, all of the financial data that this is reflective of was provided by the auditor to Enterprise. So this is real numbers for the city of Circleville and using the analysis.
Through the leasing option, instead of spending cash, which is what cities are usually doing in our experience, you can just obtain many more vehicles with that yearly budget. So paying down vehicles to a residual and using the government buy and saving any money we can in the areas of maintenance and fuel is how you get your expenditures to be so low.
Okay, do we have any other questions?
I have a quick one. Unfortunately, I wasn't here last week, so I apologize for
That's
that. But when you're talking about police cruisers, things of that, does that include the upfitting and everything tied into that?
Great. No, that's a great question. So the mindset with doing business with us is once the vehicle comes here, it's as ready to go as humanly possible. That can be license, title, tag. That can be police upfit like you're describing. The mindset is when the vehicle hits the lot, you guys get in the vehicles and you guys go. It would be taking you guys out of those. I'm sure if you've ever dealt with that, a very intense headache situation, right? Is organizing all of the upfit, making sure that it's all done, when are the parts coming in, et cetera. So taking you guys out of that, we take that over and then give you all of the real-time updates as we receive them.
Thank you.
Great question.
Mr. Duval?
I'm on a commission when I say this, but basically it saves our people a lot of time. They're not selling cars, they're not buying cars, they're not looking around for the best deal. That's all taken care of. And I see that as almost as big as the money we save.
Yeah, and to expand on what Tom just said, one thing that we were not able to quantify in this is this includes like vehicle repair costs, essentially like third parties. It does not include the savings that the city experiences for either vehicle repairs or maintenance things that they do in the garage or what you just discussed. So this is like true analysis savings, but there are those savings as well as that repair that we weren't able to quantify.
Right. And not only that, Tom, you have to think about the headache and the time spent, right? So yes, of course, there's savings in having legitimate professionals take that over, but the time spent doing those things, that can be the most difficult thing when finding a vehicle in Mark's experience or waiting at the BMV yourself, just trying to get one plate for a vehicle. We take over all of that. And on the maintenance side, like you were speaking of, all of that is included and that is taken care of through us. And it's all just a part of the program. You guys don't have to worry about where am I taking my vehicle? How much are we spending on this vehicle? Are they giving me the wrong parts? Are they overcharging me? Are they giving me 3 tires when I only need 2 tires? We have that infrastructure to make sure that you guys get the best deal and the right deal.
So who does the maintenance then? Do you all come get the vehicle and take care of the maintenance, or how does that work?
Another great question. So that's actually done through your local vendors here in town. In the packet that I hope maybe you got one, there's a screenshot of the area of the zip code of the town and then 25 miles out. There are numerous locations where your drivers would be able to just take their phone, show them the app, and then all the work is done in-house.
And where the vehicles are currently repaired are one of the 2 authorized dealers to do the repairs. So there would be no change to who already is repairing the vehicles.
Yes. And that the mindset there is not only you're going to go to your exact same vendors that you're used to, but now you get all the data and the tracking and the analytics to that as well. So you guys can see exactly how much you're spending, but also you can see when was the last oil change done, at what mileage, did the driver go on time? The data is numerous.
Is there a plan in place to work this into with our current vehicles then?
Yep. So in the packet, and as was discussed in the finance meeting, they have a suggestion of, I think is it 13 vehicles? It's 11 or 13.
To start the program,
Yep.
15.
15. Okay. 15 vehicles that are in the in the onset plan of vehicles of what we already have to replace that they suggested in their analysis to replace based on maintenance costs that have already been put into the vehicle, mileage and age of the vehicle.
And if I remember correctly from that meeting, you also would take care of selling those vehicles.
Yeah.
And
And so unlike a gov deal situation, they have a
Right.
staff of, it was like 800 people.
Right under 900.
Yeah, see, I'm somewhat gray on the details, but a lot of people who specifically sell the vehicles and are incentivized to get the highest dollar possible on the sale.
Those are women that are men and women who are paid on how quickly they sell the vehicle, how many of your vehicles they sell at once, and for how much more did they make on that previous vehicle. So if you can imagine, they're pretty aggressive.
sure.
Okay, anyone else have any questions or thoughts?
Sherry,
Yes.
I do want to add one more thing on this. I was trying to get the resolution that actually we have here in front of us today. I looked at different cities that are currently using Enterprise, and I did get a response back from one. And this was completely unsolicited. I just wanted to see if I could get their resolution. And this was actually has been since 2018. The city of Sharonville has been using them. And this is from the safety service director that they have there. It says, our experience with Enterprise has been very positive. It was just, I mean, that was it. It wasn't, he didn't elaborate any more than that, but coming from somebody who has used the program for 6 years now, that says a lot that it's been very positive for that period of time.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. Any other questions? I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules. So moved by Mrs. Hedges, a second,
I'll second.
seconded by John Moats. Mrs. Chancy, please call the roll.
Duvall,
Yes.
Halladin,
Yes.
Hedges,
Yes.
Klitska,
Yes.
Moats,
Yes.
Tice,
Yes.
Brooks.
Yes.
Motion for passage.
Motion for adoption by Mrs. Hedges, seconded by Mr. Duvall. Mrs. Chancy, please call the roll.
Halladin,
Yes.
Hedges,
Yes.
Klitska,
Yes.
Moats,
Yes.
Tice,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Duvall.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Resolution number 0531, 2024.
Thank
And
you so much for coming this evening.
Thank you,
Yeah.
guys.
Thanks, Ross.
an ordinance levying assessments for cutting of weeds and the abatement of nuisances on certain city lots and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Mrs. Chanty. This came to us from the Judicial Committee. Mr. Klitska?
Yes, thank you. This is a typical annual ordinance that we assess for cutting some of our residents, homeowners, apartment buildings, cutting weeds and other things that may cause a nuisance here in the community. And so they're basically going to pay us for the work that our team is providing on their behalf itself. So requesting this as a standard, annual, maybe more than that as things go on, and request that we move this forward.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or discussions on that? Do I
Motion
have a-
to suspend the rules.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mr. Hallinan to suspend the rules, seconded by Zach Brooks. Please read the roll.
Okay. Hedges,
Yes.
Klitska,
Yes.
Moats,
Yes.
Tice,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Duvall,
Yes.
Halladin.
Yes.
Thank you. We have a motion for passage.
I will make that motion, please.
Motion by Tom Klitska, seconded by John Moats. Mrs. Chancy, please call the roll.
Klitska,
Yes.
Moats,
Yes.
Tice,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
excuse me, Duvall,
Yes.
Halladin,
Yes.
Hedges.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Ordinance number 0532, 2024. A resolution authorizing the city of Circleville to apply for, accept, and enter into a water pollution control loan fund agreement to fund the utility improvements for Montclair Avenue project construction. Tentatively award the utility improvements for Montclair Avenue Contract 1-2024 to the successful bidder and designating a dedicated repayment source for this loan.
Thank you, Mrs. Chancy. This resolution comes to us from the Service Committee. Mr. Duvall?
In case you're wondering, are you seeing double? We've already approved this, but this is for the loan commission to have the official council approval to pay the bill. So this is standard boilerplate, the state of Ohio. Period.
Any comments, questions?
Motion to suspend the rules.
All right, the motion by Mrs. Hedges to suspend the rules, a second by Zach Brooks. Mrs. Chancy, please call the roll.
Moats,
Yes.
Tice,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Duvall,
Yes.
Halladin,
Yes.
Hedges,
Yes.
Klitska.
Yes.
Motion for passage.
Motion for adoption by Mr. Brooks, seconded by Mr. Duvall. Mrs. Chancy, please call the roll.
Tice,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Duvall,
Yes.
Halladin,
Yes.
Hedges,
Yes.
Klitska,
Yes.
Moats.
Yes.
Resolution number 0533, 2024. An ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service to purchase is it Kubota? Okay.
Yes.
L3902DT tractor and finished mower on behalf of the water treatment plant through the Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Program and declaring this an emergency.
Thank you. This also came out of the Service Committee. Mr.
Two
Duval?
toughies tonight. We're replacing a 1992 John Deere. It's had a very useful life and it's dead. The money is already approved and we just need council's approval to move forward. It's budgeted, excuse me,
Yes.
Yeah, through the water treatment plant funds, I believe.
waste.
Wastewater treatment, yes.
Thank you.
Any questions or concerns? No?
Motion
right.
to suspend the rules.
Motion to suspend the rules by Mr. Hallinan,
A
seconded
second.
by Mr. Klitzka. Mrs. Chancy, please call the roll.
Brooks,
Yes.
Duval,
Yes.
Halladin,
Yes.
Hedges,
Yes.
Blitzka,
Yes.
Moat,
Yes.
Tice.
Yes. Motion for passage by Mr. Duval, seconded by Mr. Hallinan. Ms. Chancy, please call the roll.
Duval,
Yes.
Halladin,
Yes.
Hedges,
Yes.
Blitzka,
Yes.
Moat,
Yes.
Tice,
Yes.
Brooks.
Yes.
Excuse me, ordinance number 0534, 2024. That's all I have.
Okay,
Ma'am.
thank you very much. That brings us to the new business portion of the meeting. And we have an ordinance.
Yes,
From the
thank you,
Finance
Mrs.
Committee?
Tice. So as I had referenced earlier in my report, on May 14th, Finance met. We discussed two different pieces of legislation. It was brought to my attention this week that the second piece of legislation, I guess, didn't make it to council's box in time for the agenda. So I wanted to bring it up under new business. It is a traditional housekeeping ordinance, but it does include the funding of a planner position that I know is much sought after from city council. So I wanted to bring it up under new business. I sent out all of the information this week, so council had it for review. If they didn't see it under the finance agenda, can Mrs. Chancy read it, or do I read it?
You have to bring it,
Okay,
put it on the agenda.
so can I make a motion
Motion,
to
yes.
put it on the
To
agenda?
add it to the agenda, please.
Yes.
Motion?
So moved by
Okay.
Mrs. Hedges,
No,
second-
second.
seconded by Mr. Brooks. Please read the roll.
Excuse me. Halladin,
Yes.
Hedges,
Yes.
Blitzka,
Yes.
Moat,
Yes.
Tice,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Duval.
Yes.
Okay, it's on the agenda.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, so now do I read it? Okay, so it is an ordinance amending the annual appropriation ordinance in the general fund 101 Street Construction Fund, 203 City Permissive Motor Vehicle Fund, 205 Capital Improvement 0.4% Income Tax Fund, 206 Capital Improvement Fund, 306 Waterworks Improvement and Extension Fund 819, and Sanitary Sewer Improvement and Extension Fund 920 of the City of Circleville. So with that ordinance that was sent to council, it also included a housekeeping chart that gave basically a summary of line by line all of the additions. We do have the auditor with us this evening if you wanted to give a summary. Goodwill.
Yeah, basically the big thing on here was the planner position that we spoke about and that everybody was much in agreement with. And then there was a couple larger things for the professional services dues and fees for the water plant, $72,250 for both the water and for the sewer department. And then also there was a vehicle lease for the service department of $63,000. $63,000 for the for that, plus another. Sorry, it was broken up into three different funds. $63,000 out of one fund and $31,500 out of two additional funds for the purchase of, I believe it was two vehicles for the service department.
So it did come out of our committee again with the recommendation from passage. I think it was just like clerical error that it didn't make it on the agenda. So I would motion to suspend the rules.
Okay, we have a motion to suspend the rules,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Hallinan. Mrs. Chancy, please read the roll.
Hedges,
Yes.
Blitzka,
Yes.
Moat,
Yes.
Tice,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Duval,
Yes.
Halladin.
Yes.
Motion for
For
passage.
passage by Mrs. Hedges, seconded by Mr. Klitzka. Mrs. Chancy, please read the roll.
Blitzka,
Yes.
Moat,
Yes.
Tice,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Duval,
Yes.
Halladin,
Yes.
Hedges.
Yes.
Excuse me, ordinance number 0535, 2024.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Is there any other new business this evening?
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn by Mr. Hallinan, seconded by Mr. Duval. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right. Thank you all
Thank
for
you.
coming.